Sorry, I got some connection issues here. I just did an introduction then to absolutely nobody. So let's have another crack at this. Welcome to. It's good actually because the first time I did the introduction, I had a mouthful of gin and almost spat it out. So I can now have another go at it. Hi Tom, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. Thank you. Yeah, very good. I did wonder what was going on there, and decided to just basically not move and keep staring at the screen in case I was on camera. But yeah, I'm all good. I'm all good. You?
All right. Good. Yes, good. So this is this month's Gin Me Live tasting for the month of September, but of course we're doing the tasting in October because everyone's had their gin for a week or two at this point. We're featuring a new distillery or newish distillery from Ireland, which I'm going to mispronounce, but I'll have a crack at it anyway. The Ahascrag distillery. Let's see how much offence I've caused Gareth and Michelle when they come on in a second with that. Do you want to have a go at
it? Ahascrag. That's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Right. But we'll see. Yeah.
We'll ask them to score us out of 10 as to how close we are. I'll be surprised if either of us got to be on 3 out of 10 there. Anyway, more specifically, it's their Xin Gin, which is just one of the most beautifully packaged gins I've seen in recent times, and the liquid stacks up as well, as we're going to find out. So, without further ado, let's introduce the founders of the distillery and of Xin Gin. And I'm in serious technical issues here this week. We've got Gareth and Michelle McAllister.
Hi, guys.
Good evening. Hi, everybody. And you were quite close in pronouncing it. Ahascrag. You don't pronounce the GH at the end. Ahascrag.
I mean,
okay.
I mean, I was thinking we were still quite far off.
It's been, I've heard it called worse.
Yeah.
And that's the village where we are in East Galway.
So the emphasis is on the
Ahascrag. So literally, you just say it as it is without the GH.
Right.
Like the band, Aha.
Got you.
Scrap.
Yes. That's a good way of remembering it. Like it.
Yeah.
Tom, are you writing it down?
No, I was just rereading how it was spelt to get my head around it better. That was all. Just practicing it in my head.
But soon people will be able to, like, people couldn't say Lafroig or Isla, Bonawan, but everyone can now. So in a few years, everyone will know Ahascrag.
Yeah, and they'll certainly know the amazing liquids that you make as well, right? The brands.
That's exactly it. Yeah. That's exactly it.
Good stuff.
So how did this all start for you guys?
Yeah. where do we start? We actually were working over in Asia, and obviously COVID hit. Gareth came back over here actually to Ireland for a meeting, something totally different. Got stuck in the first lockdown in Ireland. I was still in Hong Kong. And then we just realized at that stage, we had been talking about it. We had registered the company while we were in Hong Kong, and we'd been talking about it. And with COVID, we just realized it's now or never. I think a lot of people kind of did a moment during COVID, and that was ours. We'd always wanted to work together. He likes his whiskey. I like my gin. I like his whiskey. He likes my gin. So it worked out well.
Yeah. So what you see behind is a picture of the distillery now. It was an old mill. We came across in 2018, and we started the renovation and restoration and converting it into our distillery in 2020. Yeah. So that had a few years, and it was, as Michelle said, our COVID project, lockdown project. So we're in East Galway, about nearly 2 hours from Dublin if you're heading from Dublin to Galway. So if anyone is in the area, do drop by. We have visitor center, we have two tours every day, tastings, a lot to see, a lot to do here.
We have a lovely cafe as well here that you can buy the products and stuff in. as well.
What's if you don't mind me asking,
Nice.
and apologies if you've mentioned this, what's your background sort of prior to opening the distillery and setting up with whiskey and gin, I guess?
Yeah, I'm more the technical side of it. I'm a chemical engineer. I'm a certified distiller. I've been working in the process industries for well over 30 years, all around the world, building plants, process plants, chemical plants. And my passion has been whiskey, Michelle's gin, and as Michelle said, we were always going to do something together when our corporate lives came to an end, and more like as a retirement project. And that's what we kind of set out to do in 2018, 5 years ago. And it has developed it's grown a lot bigger than a retirement project.
Yeah.
So like we're enjoying the feedback from our spirits that we've created. We needed a place, a brand home. We needed to be able to distill and control our own liquid, and hence the necessity for the distillery. And we basically maximize the square footage that we have, floor space that we have in the old mill complex, to maximize the production. And when we're up and running on full 4 shifts, 24/7, we'll be doing about 1.5 million liters of alcohol a year. That's on the whiskey side. We capacity to do probably about 500,000 LPA of gin as well, if we can sell that much.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, it sounds like a lot to anyone, but even like in the context of the larger whiskey producing distilleries in Scotland and Ireland, that's still a lot. Like that's a medium-sized distillery you've got there, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest on the west coast of Ireland. You know, obviously you got the big ones like Middleton, Bushmills, G&D on the east coast. But yeah, we'd be. It's not like a small little craft distillery. That's what we thought it would be, but it's not.
That's what it started out to be. Should have been.
Yeah, it's just grown, and there's so much on the whiskey side, as you know. There's so much demand for Irish whiskey at the moment. There's not enough capacity on the island of Ireland to meet the future demand. So the more we can produce and lay down and have ready for the future, the better for us. So that's what we're focusing on.
So what you're saying is that you've gone from a retirement project going into overdrive, basically, and probably end up working 5 times harder than.
We are.
It's 24/7, yeah, but it's fun. It's fun.
It is obviously a fantastic industry to be in either way, isn't it? A lot of fun and exciting, and especially right now, it seems to be going from strength to strength, like you say, especially Irish whiskey as well.
Yeah, it's just growing exponentially, and I think also as well. It's a great way I'm a psychologist in HR, so I love dealing with people in that. So it's a nice way to mix, both of our I suppose strengths, in this, and have a drink along the way. What a better way to have a life.
I'm the technical nerd. Michelle's the people person. Michelle's very creative, and you're going to get to her bottle soon. If you see my whiskey bottles, I'm not very creative.
Well, I still think they're beautiful, but that is something else, isn't it?
Yeah. That was, gin is one of those things that there's plenty of, and a lot of distilleries start off making the gin to fill the void, waiting for to get money in to help fund for the whiskey. That was never our plan. We were always going to do whiskey and gin. It was never a filler in or, waiting around or whatever. It was always going to be on par with the whiskey. And so because of that, we thought then that we need to have something that stands out. When somebody goes into a bar, a restaurant, off license, a shop or whatever, we have to grab their eye with it. So that was the start of that journey with that. And then obviously the liquid had to live up to the packaging. So
how much you're obviously mentioning about Hong Kong and Asia in terms of, and obviously aware of the botanicals and the flavors and the inspiration.
Yeah.
How much was it at the front of your mind in terms of that market for the product, for the gin, for Xin Gin, particularly when you were developing it, in terms of, were you looking at it with one eye on that market, thinking, well, actually, this could be, a real big hit in that particular region?
Yeah, I think we were looking at it with both eyes, to be honest with you. It is our main market that we are aiming for. So it was, all of our brands were made with that in mind. Obviously, it is an Irish gin, and we don't hide from that at all. But it was definitely purposely done.
Yeah. A small bit of market share in China is worth a hell of a lot more of 100% market share in Ireland.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thinking.
Yeah.
No, but it is. I mean, everything about it, the colour scheme, the design, everything, the labelling, it's stunning, like you say. So, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
so
just one of
maybe we'll talk a little bit. Oh, sorry, but maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the botanicals in the gin and kind of how you went about selecting those and the flavor profile of it.
Yeah. Well, I knew, so one of the main botanicals in it is persimmon. It's a fruit from Asia. It's kind of like a peach. It looks like kind of a peach, and it's a honey flavored. And the reason I went with that is when we lived in Shanghai, out in the garden, there was this most beautiful tree, and it was a persimmon tree. We didn't know what it was for ages until eventually we just took up you don't go around willy-nilly in Shanghai and eat anything without inspecting it and searching it and Googling it and everything.
Cleaning
it. So after a while we were like, okay, let's have a look at this. And I really liked it. And that was the start of my thinking, okay, how can I use that in the gin? Because I thought that was very different. Who's going to put persimmon? Who knows about persimmon, first of all, but who's going to put that into the gin? So that's how it kind of carried on then. And literally, to be very honest, I put in botanicals that I either like cooking with or eating. So it was quite easy for me to decide. What was the difficult part was seeing which botanical worked with which botanical. So, you start off with what you think is a great recipe, and then you go, no, that's just not right. But what one do you take out, or what botanical do you add in? And that was the hard part of seeing what worked with what,
What was how long was the sort of development process in terms of, obviously getting the ratios right, and like you say, the botanicals right? It must have been quite a bit of time going back and forth.
Yeah, it took me 2 years to get there. It was 2 years of playing around with it, and that it was, I think that was, designing the bottle, and that was probably the easier part. It was the recipe and getting the recipe, and then you go down a rabbit hole. You kind of go, oh well, will they like that if I put this in, or hold that? And then I mean, it was Gareth that said to me, look, you have to be able to stand over it and you have to drink it and enjoy it. So go that way. And once I kind of thought that through, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. If I want to drink it, then others will hopefully drink it too. So that's exactly how I did it.
Nice. So just on the persimmon, how did you go about actually sourcing that in the end? Is there European growers of it, or do you get a dried version of it? How does that work?
It's hard.
I get it flown in from Asia. So yeah.
We have 2 trees here in Galway, persimmon trees that we're struggling to keep alive in the greenhouse. So we're not going to be able to grow it here.
No,
we ship it in.
We ship it in. We can ship it in fresh, or it also comes in a vacuum pack like this. So, which is what we use. And actually, a lot of Asian supermarkets will have this. It's seasonal. So it's like from October to April. So we use some of this sometimes in our garnish.
Oh, nice. Cool. Tom, are you going to make a drink for us?
I am. I am going to make a drink, and you won't. Well, you probably will believe this, but I think somewhere I've been, I guess, pushed towards this drink, in that I'm actually making a drink, strangely enough, that is a drink that we're recommending for the gin we're featuring next month. And that wasn't the reason why I'm doing it. Although somehow, subconsciously, I feel like it's kind of ingrained itself in my head over the last few days. I'm going to make a silver fizz, and a silver fizz basically is it's a mid-19th century cocktail. It's a long drink. It's a twist on, I guess, a classic fizz being a spirit of almost any kind, lemon juice, a little bit of sugar and soda water. With this one, which is a big sort of thing for me and a big favourite of mine, is it actually has the addition of egg white in it as well, which can be, it can get contrasting sort of opinions on putting egg white in drinks. But for me personally, I think with a gin like this and a drink like this, it really adds some nice viscosity, some texture, some mouthfeel to the drink itself as a long drink. And I say this every month, but obviously one of the most important things here is that all of these drinks that we try to showcase, obviously firstly should bring out to accentuate the botanicals or the aromatics and the flavours that are within the gin itself. But also should be really easy to make at home, because of course what we really want is people to make these drinks very easily with ingredients that can be bought from any supermarket anywhere, basically. So for this drink, we're going to start with, the juice of half a lemon, which is going to go into my, I don't know if you can, you can see that cocktail shaker there. The juice of half a lemon. I might go with just a touch more. So normally around 25 millilitres of lemon juice. I'm going to add in there around 12.5 millilitres of a simple sugar syrup, which is equal measures in weight of basically boiling water and granulated sugar, which has just been dissolved down. That's going to add a touch of sweetness. I'm going to add my egg white in there as well. And of course, around 50 millilitres of the Xin Gin in there as well, like so. There you go. So they're the base ingredients. I'm going to give this a shake. This is a highball, so it's going to be served long over ice. I've got a nice simple highball glass here. Just going to grab my ice, add this into the shaker. I'm also going to ice my glass as well, so that's ready. I'm going to give this a nice shake. I'm not used to shake it. I'm actually sat down, so I'm not used to shaking sat down. But, and I'm just going to strain this over ice, like that. And I'm going to top that with a splash of soda water, just to give it a little bit of effervescence, a bit of fizz. We give it a quick stir. And when I put my garnish in, no doubt this is going to spill all over my kitchen worktop, but it doesn't need to be perfect. And I'm just going to garnish that with a nice lemon wedge there, like so. So there we have a very simple silver fizz. You can tell by the colour of it, presumably what it's inspired by, which is the viscosity and the texture that's been generated by the egg white. One of my personal favourite drinks. It's also a drink that I was thinking about earlier. Tristan and I, many years ago now, more than 10 years, 13 years ago now, the very first bar that we opened in London together, this was a drink that was on the very first menu in the very first bar that we owned, which was called Pearl in Marylebone. And it was a massive, seller, very popular. And I think between us, we've made definitely hundreds, maybe thousands of them. So, cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yes.
Lovely.
It's a great drink. Such a good drink. It's like one of the best long drinks, full stop, I think. Yeah.
And what gin did you used to use in it?
Back in the day, 13 years ago, I think at that time we were possibly using Tanqueray at that time. Only because obviously it's a fantastic gin, but partly because just prior to Tristan and I going into business together, basically we both used to work for Diageo. I was there for about 5 years and Tristan was there for about 3 years. So one of the brands that I looked after for probably 2 to 3 of those years was Tanqueray. So it was quite close to my heart at that time.
Also, don't forget that even 13 years ago, though it's hard to imagine it now, there was only like 20 gins.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that must be, it probably just predated brands like Sipsmith, the sort of beginning.
I think we opened Pearl about the same time as Sipsmith. I think they might have been just before us. And they, of course, were one of the sort of pioneers of it, weren't they, in the UK?
I mean, where the sort of resurgence all kicked off, really, wasn't it? About end of 2009, 10, and then it's just gone ballistic since then, hasn't it? Well, yeah, good time.
Cool. Michelle, you drinking something now? I just heard a can crack. Are you,
Yes,
are you having a bevy?
I'm having one of my Xin Gins.
Nice.
I just have it
Lovely.
with Fever Tree tonic.
Nice.
That's
Classic.
nice
Yeah.
tonic to go with it. Yeah.
It's also
Well, of
nice.
course, Fever Tree is partly responsible as well, I would say, for the gin boom that we've experienced too, because once it sort of elevated the gin and tonic, that opened the floodgates, I think, for more premium gins to enter the market.
Absolutely. And I think it also went with, the younger generation starting to experiment with drinks, because I know when we were growing up, gin was kind of like an old lady's drink, the same way as whiskey was an old man's drink. And I think the younger ones now are a bit more adventurous than we were all when we were growing up. So I think that's why it's kind of exploded as well.
It's funny, isn't it? Because actually, even thinking about the sort of comparison with mixers, even the brands at that time, like Schweppes, for example, for me, for some reason, not so much now, because they've obviously done huge rebranding and redevelopment and everything to sort of come up to speed with what's gone on with Fever Tree. But back then, I remember Schweppes being the glass bottle mixer in boozers and pubs. When my parents would be drinking gin and tonics, and probably that sort of feel of a very old school classic mixer to go with an old school classic gin.
Exactly.
Fever Tree of, well, whichever which way around you look at it, one or the two have piggybacked off each other, haven't they? The gin craze,
100%,
and the mixer itself have both gone on together, haven't they? So they've kind of now cornered that, that market of being the mixer of choice, and obviously it's great mixers as well. So good stuff.
So we sort of alluded to and touched on, and obviously waved bottles around, but let's talk a bit about the design of the bottle, because you've won some awards for this bottle, I think, haven't you?
Yeah, we've won a lot of awards actually for the gin and the bottle. It's just well, that's the way my mind works, I suppose. I went with the Celtic Squirt. I think the whole thing was I wanted to make sure that it was easy to drink in Europe and easy on the eye in Europe and easy on the eye in Asia. So it was kind of a mixture of two. So I went with this Celtic swirls there on the bottle, and I think you can see it. And then mind the drink.
I'll move the drink out of the way. I don't want to go on my computer.
I don't want to waste it. And then it goes into a heart shape. And the reason it goes into a heart shape and the design of the Celtic swirls is because the word Xin actually in Mandarin means heart or love. And I just thought that was lovely with, it's easy to say with gin. And then the cross at the front of it is just the crossover of two, the meeting of two of the two cultures, the Irish, particularly our European, and the Asian. It's funny because the Irish and Asian cultures are quite similar. They're quite family orientated. They like to eat, they like to drink, they like to socialize. Family time is important for them, and eating good food and drinking good drink with family is important to the Asians, as it is, I suppose, to a lot of Europeans too. And so that's why I kind of went with that. The Ogham then at the front on the label at the top, I ripped it off actually. Is the original Old Irish way of writing, and I just thought that was a lovely. Because it's characters, which is like in Asia, they use characters as well. And I thought that was another connection that we have together. So that's why that is there.
What are the main ways of sort of consuming gin in Asia and in Hong Kong and Shanghai? Obviously, because Tristan and I have been out there a few times ourselves. In fact, we have a couple of Black Rock bars one in Shanghai and one in Chengdu. But I've never really, weirdly, whenever I've been out there, I've always been drinking whiskey and never really took much note of how people consuming gin. Is it still the same sort of bottle to table culture that you find with whiskey, or is it more gin and tonics, cocktails? What's the kind of?
I think out there it's a lot of cocktails. Cocktails would be big there with the gin. They would actually have gin cocktail bars, and generally don't drink gin and tonics. It would normally be gin on its own or in a cocktail.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's I think actually Europe is coming that way with cocktails. Asia is just a wee bit ahead of it. Cocktails are a big thing over there, and I think we're getting that way too here.
Yeah, the gin and tonic's very much a European thing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
Americans don't drink too many of them either. It's all martinis over there. You know, they drink a lot of gin, but it's going in cocktails, and a lot of that's martinis. I mean, I've been sat here sipping the gin, which I'm not just saying this because you're here, but I don't do that on every live tasting we do. But it is a very sippable gin. And you know, gin's not really designed to be that way normally. It's this sort of consummate mixing beverage, really, isn't it? It's cocktails, it's gin, it's all these things. But this is a sippable gin, which I think speaks volume about the quality of it, because you know, if it tastes good in a glass on its own, it's going to taste great, you know, in a martini or in a cocktail or with tonic water. So yeah, you've done a great job, I think.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Yeah, we're you know, it's doing very well. It's winning awards. It's won Best in Ireland for 2 years in a row. It's won a gold masters in the spirits. It's won a design. I don't know, just it's won. Yeah, it's won in Japan. Well. It's won in New York. So yeah, it's doing very well. Yeah, happy with it. I'm terrified to make another one though, because in case it's not as good as this.
Yeah.
Would you do a variable on the same brand, or would you do a completely different brand, or would you?
No, I would do a variable on this brand.
Yeah. Right. So is that in your mind? Is it at the moment? You've been thinking about it.
Yeah, I think I have. I think I'm working out the new recipe at the moment. So yeah, I think I have it fairly nailed out. It'll be a very similar bottle, but it'll be purple.
It's like a follow-up album. It's like having a #1 album and then having to follow it up with something.
That's exactly it. It's like, is the second one ever as good as the first one? Who knows? But what I'll do, what the plan is to do with different colors, so that you eventually will go into, say, whatever, a bar, and you'll say, I'll have the Xin Gin red, or I'll have the Xin Gin purple, or whatever else. And so then that people will start to collect them, you know, because they are lovely bottles. And that would be the plan. Also with the bottle, actually, I never said, these peel off, so you can actually reuse them, you know. So we have candles that we put in them, or flowers that you can put in them. And that's to go with our sustainability. You know, our whole ethos here is to be green, basically. Though we can't have a green bottle because it's bad luck in Asia. But our distillery is one of the first eco distilleries in Ireland and the UK. So we're quite conscious of that. So because the bottle was so lovely, it's like, why would you want to get rid of it? So I wanted to make sure. So when you do peel off this, there's the gold X is still on it underneath on part of the bottle. So it's still there, it's still a Xin Gin bottle, but it's kind of a stand-alone piece then, if you wanted to put it on your table or whatever.
Very nice.
Or you can refill it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Bring it to the distillery and top it up with gin.
It's
a great idea, though. Because the other thing is, like, if I've got this on my shelf with a candle in it, then when I head to a bar later on that evening, I'm naturally going to be drawn to that familiar object, you know, and then I'll be bar calling Xin Gin.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Brand washing. Yes,
it makes sense. It does make sense. I mean,
sustainability from that point of view as well. Sustainability of the distillery.
It's a huge part of it, isn't it? The bottle makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
In it does pull people to it, doesn't it? I mean, we've seen it with a handful of other brands, let's say, that have done it really well, where it just becomes this sort of icon of the back bar. It does very well.
I think you have to with gin, particularly, because you know the people that generally drink gin or starting off a gin aren't loyal really until they find the one that they like, and the one that they generally go for is the one that they notice first, and then if they like it, they'll stick to it. And so that's always the issue when you're trying to do any sort of product or brand. You've got to draw the eye to it. So.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, good stuff. Well, definitely done that.
Good.
Yeah, I think the other thing is getting bartenders on side, right? Because they're kind of your salesmen, aren't they? And if they can give a good pitch about your distillery, your brand, the botanicals you're using, the flavor of it to a guest, and that stacks up in the glass, then the guest has a great experience and they've sort of gained some knowledge that they can then disseminate to their friends and appear to be, clued up on the gin category. And they'll keep ordering your product as well, won't they? Because, they kind of know something, they have something to say about it, and they had a positive experience with it in the past.
Well, that is key, and we do that here. We do bring bar staff and retail staff that are dealing with spirits to the distillery and give them tastings and that, so that they know exactly that, that they're able to tell our story. And so it's also about people then, when the bartender, who will be the last person to, he's the person that they're going to put the liquid to their lips, So if they, like you say, have a good experience with him and he tells the story, or her, it gives them that connection to our story and to the product. And so that's really, really important. So we do bring bar people to our distillery and show them how we make it and taste it and tell them our story, so they can relate it on.
Just one last question for me, if you don't mind. I don't want to keep you guys too long. Obviously the bottles are 5 cl, right, versus 500 ml versus 700 ml. What was the sort of thoughts behind that sort of size bottle, let's say?
We actually have a 7 coming out, but the 5 was because it's premium, and I wanted to be on the same kind of as Monkey 47, which is also 500, and that's why I went down that road. It's lovely, but we have had, especially the bars and that, saying, look, it goes very quickly. It's a couple of, well, if it's me in there, a couple of drinks and it's gone. So we do have the 700 now coming.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Nice. I think also it goes back to that kind of appeal on the shelf as well. There's something about a small bottle where it feels like there's limited quantities of it. It's there's not an abundance. It's a rare object. Something to be treasured, saved, all those kind of things.
Yeah. It's just that little bit extra special. Yeah.
And I suppose the other reason for changing was we're shipping to the US now, and they don't accept 500 ml bottles. So it was either 350 or 700 or 750 the US. So we settled on 700.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, that's a big market, isn't it? So worth changing for to get in there. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I just want you to note as well, I have a pineapple in mine as a garnish too, because there is pineapple in the one of the botanicals is pineapple, and the pineapple is very unusual, but it's something that bars do tend to have, especially if they're bars that do cocktails. And it's a wee bit different.
It's a good point, that, isn't it? It's about sort of creating these signature serves, or simple signature serves. The garnish is the one, isn't it, that can really differentiate your brand in glass. And obviously, in this case, obviously something that really brings out the botanicals as well, which is perfect. I think it's so funny how these things just catch on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was what was it? Is it Hendrix?
Strangely,
cucumber,
it's a citrus-based gin, so a citrus garnish is important.
Yeah. So sorry, there's a delay here going on, so we keep on interrupting each other. But I was going to say, but pineapple, I think, from my point of view, I actually class as an Irish ingredient, because I'm half Irish, and I remember spending lots of time with family in Ireland eating gammon and pineapple. With pineapple on the side.
That's exactly it.
put on our pizzas as well.
Yeah.
It's called a Hawaiian pizza.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true.
But it doesn't go very well here.
No.
That's it.
Yeah, and this is the origin of the ham and pineapple pizza. I think is probably an Irish dish of gammon and pineapple.
I would imagine so.
Anyway, we digress. Guys, that's amazing. I think we've probably covered a lot, if not all of it. And it's good to meet you guys and chat through and hear about your wonderful story that started as a kind of COVID project. Whilst the rest of us were like decorating a spare room, you guys were opening a massive distillery. And now has resulted in award-winning gin and hopefully soon, with the whiskey as well, which we're featuring on Whiskey Me at some point in the future, I think, right, Tom?
Yeah, we are. Yeah. I have tasted them, and I can't remember when it is in, but it is in. I'm sure I think it's for early next year because we were booked up. The first time I tried it, we were booked up for about 9 months in advance, or even a year in advance. So, but it is in there, and I'll be picking back up with the guys as we get nearer to sort it out. Yeah, because that's fantastic as well.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And if you're ever over this side of Ireland, do look us up.
We'll do.
Show you around, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, we'll do. Appreciate it. And likewise, if you're ever in London and you fancy going to Black Rock and drinking some whiskey there, then give me a shout as well. Tristan's in Cornwall, so he may or may not be around, but I'm definitely will be around.
Great, Tom. All right.
Cool.
That's good.
Nice one. Thanks a lot.
Okay, guys.
Hey,
Thanks
guys.
a lot.
Thanks a lot.
For talking to us.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.